When you think of astrophotography, your first thought leads you to photographing objects in the night sky, the moon, the planets, and deep sky objects. While those subjects do make up the bulk of what astrophotographers are interested in, there is another astronomical object that should command your attention, and that's the sun. Let's take a look at what it takes to observe and image our closest star. If you've seen some of our previous videos about using a telescope, you will have been told to never ever turn your telescope to the sun. In general, that's good advice. You can permanently damage your eyesight, camera, or telescope, so it's a warning to be taken seriously. However, by taking proper precautions, you can observe and photograph the sun in perfect safety. The sunlight that reaches the ground contains a vast amount of energy, some 700 watts per square meter on a clear day. The trick is to keep anything but a tiny fraction of this energy from entering the telescope. This is done by using an approved solar filter that fits securely over the front of your instrument. These filters are made of glass or mylar. Links to sources will be listed at the end of this video. With the exception of specialized solar telescopes that we'll talk about later, this is the only safe way to observe the sun. You may come across other methods such as image projection and light-rejecting prisms, and while these methods do work, it doesn't protect the optics from the intense heat they will be exposed to and is not recommended for beginners. Once you have your scope set up with an approved securely attached filter, it's time to get started. Make sure that the caps are on your finder scope because you'll not be using it and it could burn you if you're not careful. You might think that not using a finder scope will make pointing impossible, but there's an easy solution. Just use the shadows. While watching the shadow of your tube and finder on the ground, point your scope until they are as small and round as possible. Once you've done that, the sun should be in the field of view of a low-power eyepiece or very close. Now make small adjustments until it's centered. What you're seeing is a white light image of the sun that might be shaded orange or slightly blue depending on your filter type. You are essentially seeing a full spectrum image of the sun. The first thing to look for are sunspots. The number and size of the spots will depend on where you are in the 12-year solar cycle, so don't despair if none are seen. If spots are present, you can follow them from day to day as they grow and shrink and move with the sun's rotation. Sunspots have a lot of detail, so moving to higher magnifications can be rewarding. Under high power, you might also notice a slight texture to the solar surface. This granulation is actually made up of the convection cells that carry the sun's energy to the surface. While observing the sun, keep in mind that most of the spots that you see are many times the size of the Earth. It really reminds you how insignificant everything else in the solar system is. Photographing the sun is easy once you're set up for visual observing. Using a basic camera adapter, you can take single shots with any camera that has a removable lens. If you want to explore more advanced techniques such as stacking, please see our video, Easy Astrophotography Shoot the Moon, in the Astronomy Club playlist for details. The technique is laid out step by step. If the sun captures your interest and imagination, there is a more advanced way to see and photograph it. Instead of using all the colors of light that the sun emits, you can observe it using a very narrow slice of that rainbow. The most common is to use the hydrogen alpha band. This uses a thin slice of the solar spectrum to show details that are invisible or hard to see in white light. There are specialized telescopes that are built for this type of solar observing and are well worth the cost if your interest takes you that far. With them, you can observe and photograph a lot more detail on the solar surface, as well as the spectacular solar prominences that are usually only visible during a total eclipse. As you've seen, observing and photographing the sun can be a wonderful addition to the astronomical hobby. Keep in mind that these techniques can be used for solar eclipses and transits of the planets Venus and Mercury. With good timing and planning, you can even capture the International Space Station as it zips across the solar disk. Once you've done it, you might just get hooked, so give it a try.